Hello, everyone. Welcome to our peer-to-peer session, Music Industry Strategies and Sustainability. This session forms part of the peer-to-peer series with New Bedford Creative. My name is Marianella Perry. I am the Senior Art Plus Fellow at New Bedford Creative. Thank you for joining us today. So, I would like to introduce our guest speaker, Michael Monteiro, who will present about strategic planning in the music industry and how to maintain a sustainable career in audio art. So I will pass it over to him to give more details of who he is and what he will present for us today.
Hello. Thank you guys for having me. This is a little different than normal for me, so I'm a little excited. And let's get right into it. I guess I'll start. My name's Michael Monteiro. I'm originally from New Bedford, Massachusetts. My background in music kind of began very young when I studied classical piano. I took piano lessons for many years and formed a love of music, which led me to begin writing and producing and engineering. So I wear many hats. I was always one that wanted to learn everything there was to know outside of my specific passion. So, I end up wearing many hats. Graduated from New Bedford High School, went to the Air Force from there. And then upon leaving the Air Force, came back to New Bedford and went to UMass Dartmouth, where I studied economics and music, which is when I started my business in 2003. I actually left UMass Dartmouth with one semester before I was supposed to graduate, which I know sounds crazy. My dad still doesn't like that. But I had learned what my passion was, and I learned enough in economics to where I knew I wanted to go out on my own and start my own business and bet on myself. So I left school and created Abstrakt Entertainment, which is my first music company, which was located here downtown in New Bedford, where we just recorded music. I did many sessions and kind of just try to provide a space for people like me in my community that wanted to make music and didn't want it to be a hobby. So after doing that for about 2.5 to 3 years, I felt that I reached my ceiling in New Bedford as far as the artistic community went, which forced me to move to LA. I figured, if I'm gonna do this business, why not go to the NBA of music? So it only made sense for me to go to LA, and I moved there in 2006 with literally the clothes on my back and about $800 and had never been there before. Wasn't sure how it was going to turn out, but just knew that I had to go take my shot. And so in 2006 is when I moved to Los Angeles. The first 6 to 8 months was spent, as every LA story begins, struggling, not knowing, where food was going to come or what was I going to do? Is this going to work? And, the same thing we all do when we go into something new, except I was at a point in my life where I embraced that challenge and couldn't wait to kind of see what was on the other side of it. And within a year, luckily, I have family. My brother is also in the music business. So as fate would have it, when I moved to LA, he would happen to be out there rehearsing with Justin Timberlake. So I would hang out in rehearsal and try to learn as much as I could, meet as many people as I could. And that's kind of where my first break in the music business came. And I got a job with Ciara by just basically being in rehearsal and this position coming up. And I was in the right place at the right time. So since 2006, I've been fortunate enough to work with many of the industry leading entertainers, musicians, artists, everybody from, Ciara to begin with. I did High School Musical tour. I've done America's Got Talent tour. I've toured with Earth, Wind and Fire to Beyonce to Jennifer Lopez and everything in between. So now it's been about 15, 16 years since I've been in LA and touring and learning. And, my passion was, my mission was always to come back to New Bedford. So COVID kind of put a damper on all my musical things in LA, which gave me the time to really focus on my plan of how do I get back to New Bedford and complete the mission. And about 2 years ago, I purchased a property here in New Bedford to just create a music facility and a space for artists and creatives, just like where my career started off at. And so that's kind of my whole story in a nutshell, which is what brings me back here to New Bedford and to be selected to do this wonderful peer-to-peer session. So what I plan on talking about today is just sustainability in music. I'm not really sure who in the room is what they do or what interests them in music. But as we all know, it's an extremely competitive industry. There's countless artists it seems like every day there's a million new artists. So I think, one of the biggest things that we need to keep in mind when we get into the business of music is how do we create a career? How do we create revenue? How do we sustain that? I mean, we make music and a lot of us get into it because we just want to make the music. But at a certain point, that takes time and you have to find a way to generate revenue if it's something that you want to do for a career. And so that's what brings us to today in this discussion. So, these days making music has become technically much easier than it was even when I was growing up. Never mind before me, because of technology. I mean, back when I was coming up, there was, you had to save your money to go to a studio, and that was the only way you were going to get your music recorded, unless you did what I did and just learn how to do every single thing yourself. These days, it's a lot easier. So therefore, there's more people doing it. It's easier to do. There's more music coming out every single day. There's a million songs coming out. Even in the 90s, you could, if you wrote a hit, you had a chance it would stay on the charts for a year, sometimes 6 months. Now, 2 days, and they're on to the next one. And the streaming services, there's no end to it. So, it becomes very challenging to etch out this lane of how do I make a career out of this. And not only with the songs coming out so much, what that also does, besides make it challenging to find a career in music, is now the value of your music is plummeting even more too. A song isn't a diamond anymore. It's a penny now. It literally can find them on the ground. So the traditional way of making songs, putting songs out, people buying songs, you making money, that just doesn't exist anymore. So that's what kind of brings us to this talk, and why I thought this was an important topic to kind of discuss. So the first point that I think is essential is really developing your skill and craft as a musician. And I know we hear that all the time, but that really is one of the key things. You have to love the process of getting better. And you have to commit to that. There's going to be times when you don't want to do it, where it doesn't make sense. But you have to stick to that and really develop your craft. Always try to get better. If you're a singer, a songwriter, whether you play an instrument, constant practice and refinement of your skills is essential. It's going to help you stand out from the crowd. And, it's going to help you be able to capitalize on the opportunities when they finally do come after you've been working so hard to get them. You might only have one. And, it'll help you not fumble that opportunity away. And, to develop your skills, that's, you can go to schools, you can go to workshops, you can take courses, learn from experts in the field is a big one. Find somebody who does what you do. Learn from them the technical aspects of your craft, but also things they might have picked up just by their experience and going through those peripheral things that aren't technically music, but that might help you, advance in the business. When I was young and I got into the business, I asked my brother advice, and he told me two things. He said, save your money and don't date the dancers, which made no sense to me at the time. But I learned that was a key point, and I'm glad that I listened to that one. So, things like that come outside of just the technical things. Learning how to really function in the business is important. Another part that ties into developing your skills is, and this is something that I always craved, was, and I never was intimidated by being around artists and people that were better than me. I always loved that. I was a quiet kid. I always liked to soak in my environment. But that, now looking back on my career, that was an important part of my development, was being around people that are better than me and never settling for mediocrity because of that. There was always people for me to shoot towards that were better, that kind of kept me going. And another point that I have that ties into that is earning your way into the room. And that's what being skilled and knowing how to interact with people a lot of times just put me in the room where decisions and things were being made. And that's something that's important, is to have enough skills that where you're needed to be there. And that's how opportunities get created a lot of times. So that's all kind of into my first point of developing your skills and your craft. And some of it's technical, some of it is relationship wise. The next point that I would like to touch on is how crucial it is to create and maintain a strong personal brand. Your sound, your dress, your whole brand really should reflect who you are and what your story is. And that's something that you have to really focus on and take note of. You have to, for me, music is a difficult career in that you sometimes have to adjust according to your fans and what they like, and this and the industry standard, what they expect from you look wise or sound wise or this and that. And to me, it's important to really, avoid adjusting with the wind. Build your brand, know who you are, stand by that, make that your sound, make that. Sometimes that might mean you have to turn down an opportunity that doesn't fit, that brand. And it's important to stand by that and not waver from that, because once you start trying to capitulate to the needs and the want, there's no finish line, there's no end. You're no longer about the art and the craft. Now it's all image, and that just is a recipe for disaster, in my opinion. So use your social media, which is something I didn't have the advantage of having when I was building my career. I had to make flyers and cut them with the old high school paper cutters and pass them under doors and get creative. And now that doesn't exist anymore. So you have an advantage of social media and a disadvantage, but if you use it properly, you can promote your music, you connect with your fans, you build your online presence. As long as, and I tell that to a lot of the students that I talk to, as long as you don't do it just for that, use it as a way to promote your music. Always keep in mind you're doing it for a purpose, and not get caught up in the back and forth comments and this and that. Use it to build your brand, and that's what you do. So build your website, create your merchandise, which is a key thing to be able to generate some revenue. And music is, you're making this music, you're getting all these fans. These fans want to spend money on things outside of that $1 song or that $10 album. They want to help you push your brand. So merchandise is huge, whether it's on your website or when you're doing shows. That is really the way you're gonna generate income, and a way to kind of sustain your career is by having that merchandise. And a little known fact, most artists that do tour make more money on their merchandise than they do on ticket sales or any of that kind of thing. So that's a big thing. And that's something that you own, whether you have, just assigned to a label or whatever. If you create a deal the right way, you own all that income. Working with a publicist, marketing team to create a cohesive brand strategy. So that's all part of my second point, is really focus on what's my story, what's my sound, what is my brand. For someone who doesn't know me, isn't from your city and doesn't care about that your local story, what's your brand to them? Why would they connect with you? And that's something that you really need to focus on. My third point is collaboration is key. And that kind of ties back into being around artists that are better than you. It's very important to collaborate, create genuine, authentic relationships is what I always say, because it's not just, hey, build relationships that are based on just transactional things. You have to build real relationships where build with people you connect with on a real level first, and let that grow into something else. Attend industry events, connect with other musicians, producers, managers, and be open to working with other artists on collaborations and joint projects. I know that's one that's hard for me to do, because my career has been really established in a room by myself. I didn't typically need anybody else. I made my own beats. I recorded my own songs. I designed my own flyers. I booked my own gigs. I set up my own gear. So that's something that now I'm really trying to push a little bit more, is collaborating with other artists and being able to learn, a different way of looking at it or hearing it or things like that. So that's a very important piece of the puzzle too. And that's, by doing that, it's going to build those relationships. And those people that you meet when you're coming up. For example, when I first moved to Los Angeles, there was a few people that I had met that we were both at the same level. We all were out there. We all were broke. We all were struggling. We all had dreams that we were pushing towards. And here it is, fast forward to 15 years later, half of us are, one's a 17 times platinum Grammy songwriter. These people they grow with you as well, and they become heads of in positions where they're now able to help you out. They're the head of the label now, or they're this and that. So really build those relationships. That's a key. Let's see. My next point is how important it is to have a solid business plan and to understand the financial aspects of the music industry. I find this a lot when I talk with artists that are around the area. They think, no, if I'm just gonna make a good song and I'm gonna get signed and and that's it, I'm gonna be on. And it's like, whoa, that is not the movie that you're actually in. You're in a much more difficult film than you think it is. And as much as you can, it's important to really learn this business that you're getting in outside of the music. Learn how agents work, learn how the process is to book shows. I can't really stress that enough. Or else you'll be playing a game that's not even being played. You're the only one playing that game on the field, and you're gonna get left on the field mad at everybody else because they're not playing the game that you trained for. But you have to actually train for the game that's being played. It's not the other way around. A business plan is important too. Know how you at least think you're gonna generate income from your music. A lot of times when you're actually writing the business plan, you start figuring out that it doesn't make any sense. So why wait until somebody else figures it out for you when you can actually go through this plan and go, okay, wait a minute, those numbers don't add up, or as best you can, because the other flip side to that is, life, like your career, is never really going to go according to the plan, which you also have to plan for. So make the plan, and then plan for the plan not to go according to plan, and always have, what potentially you could do outside of the original plan. The other part of the business that you really have to learn is contracts. Understand contracts. You want to be a professional musician, then professionals have contracts and they do paperwork. There's money on the line. People aren't going to invest in you without some sort of contract or some kind of agreement. Contracts has such a negative connotation these days, because of people that have signed bad ones. But the fact is, it's a necessary one for all parties involved. It protects you as the artist. It lets you know what to expect from whoever you're making the deal with. And if people are investing money in you, there has to be some sort of contract to keep you, following what needs to be followed. So that's an important thing. You can't be afraid of it. You just have to learn them and know how to construct it properly. Copyright laws, another one. Royalties is another one. These are all ways that you're going to generate your income from. And if you don't have that stuff in place early on, it'll be too easy to just, take your money or take your songs or put you in a bad situation. So do as much as you can to learn the actual business that you're in. Work with a lawyer, business manager, two people that you will absolutely need on your team to make sure that you're getting paid fairly for your work and that you're payments are gonna show up at all. So we're almost to the end of my notes. Let's keep going. The next one is, and this is a big one too, is never giving up. I mean, I know we hear that for everything too, but I think for me, that was one of the singular most important things that allowed me to get to the point that I did, was that I just outlasted everybody else. I was more stubborn. I had more to lose. There was more on the line for me. I believed it more in my soul, and I just could not give up because I always knew it was supposed to work. And I tried other things in life, and it just wasn't for me. And so not giving up is a big one. There's going to be, and I'll tell you a story example that happened to me is after I did that first gig, the Sierra gig that I did, my first paying music gig. It was a weekend. We worked, we did Ellen, and then come Monday, I'm waiting for the next gig, which didn't come for a long time, months. And I had gotten to the point where I was just about to, I had a regular job working at Nike out in LA. And I was just like, I could be doing this in New Bedford. I'm away from my family. And I was on the phone talking to my cousin about how bad I was ready to quit and come home. And that's literally in the middle of that phone call, I got a call, and I clicked over, and it was my next job. Hey, I have a gig for you. And it was, you have a passport? Yep. Went to South America for a month with High School Musical, and it taught me a really important lesson. It was right at my breaking point, was when the next opportunity came. And I tell people in LA all the time, that's the LA way is just one more day. If you can just make it one more day, then make it one more day, then make you. And I'm starting to realize that might not just be an LA thing. That is, a life thing. So it's important to never quit. And then, when you do not quit and the opportunity comes, remember that it's on the other side of that doubt and that challenging period where you thought it wasn't coming, but look, it came. So now that it'll give you the strength for the next time when you face that situation, you remember like, oh wait, okay, it worked out last time. I can get rid of that notion of it's not going to happen. And as long as you're doing what you need to do to continue getting better and making relationships, it's not like it magically happens. You have to continue the work, but you have to not quit doing the work, especially when people around you tell you, oh, there's no way you can do it. I was told that my whole life. You're going to go to LA and there's no way. How? Why? And it's like, nobody else is going to understand what drives you and the clues that the universe has given you through your life that tells you, no, this is going to work for me. Like nobody else sees that. Those are your clues. Those are meant to push you in the direction you need to go. And so it's important that you stay aware of those clues and you listen to them. The other thing that's important, and I'm almost done here, so we'll open it up to questions in a second, is you might want to be a rapper or a singer or a producer, but it's hugely important to branch outside of your chosen skill. Learn what the lighting guy does, learn what the production manager does. If for two reasons: one, it's going to get you better at what you do, and two, it's going to make you work better with people around you. And once you know how your piece fits into the bigger puzzle, you can maybe do things a little different that makes somebody else's job a little easier. And then you'll get hired and you'll continue to get work that way. Stay fluid, willing and able to change, especially these days with tech evolving so quickly. in 2 years, the industry that you're preparing for right now is going to be something different. So be ready to learn something different and to change with that industry. You should actually crave that change because it's coming. Don't be afraid of it. You should be embracing it and ready for it. So in conclusion, sustaining a career in the music business requires a combination of talent. It requires hard work. It requires dedication and strategic planning. It requires you to develop your skills, create a strong brand, collaborate with others, understand the business that you're actually getting into, stay persistent, and, you know, then you should have a good shot of enjoying a long, successful career in the music business. And that is my spiel. And if there's any questions, I would love to answer them.
That was my inspirational talk for the day. Never give up. That was beautiful. I don't know if anybody has questions. I did see Paulina put in here, she's a textile artist who's interested in adding music to her installations and videos. So that was interesting to know. Paulina, you just asked something else here. How to combine your role as producer and administrator of the paperwork of your brand and the time to create. How do you handle both roles?
That's a really good question.
Yeah.
Because I ask myself that same question every single day. Um, it's challenging to say the least because for me, it's like to create art or music, it takes a certain kind of mindset that is completely different than the technical, accounting administrative things. And it's taken me a long time to be able to learn how to be able to flip that switch. Partly what helps me is because I was in the Air Force, organization is one thing that helps me. I have to be organized, and right now what I've found that helps a lot is scheduling. I schedule everything in my phone, and I give myself a 1-day reminder and a 1-hour reminder. So and that's every single thing. If it's going to the movies with my girlfriend, I have to remind myself of that, because in order for me to do my job, I have to completely tune all that stuff out and turn into this whole other thing that, you know, I need my phone to snap me out of those things. So for me, it's just organization and staying on top of it. I try to do things now so that way it's not accumulating in my mental hard drive. If it's something to be done, I do it then as soon as possible. And that's what helps me.
I have another question here from Scott. Have you had experience getting music placed in film, TV, and video games? If so, how have you been able to get those placements?
That's a good question too, and that is something that will actually is a huge thing moving forward. And being able to sustain a living in music is not relying on just sales of music. It's getting those placements, which they call sync licensing. And I personally haven't had any of my music placed that way, only because I really haven't had time to kind of try to make that happen. But I have done a lot of research and met a lot of people that actually do that. And the main way to do that is or one of the ways to do that is to get your music into a publishing library. The way that people pick music for film and things like that is they usually go to a specific publisher who has a catalog of music, and they'll go and pick from that. That's one. Two is to do your best to just make relationships, meet people, meet the people that actually do that. And I know that's such a generic answer, but a lot of times, they're gonna pick the people that they know, or they're gonna, they're gonna try to keep it in that smaller circle. So do what you can to at least, you know, make those relationships, meet people, and that way, which is sometimes it's like a music supervisor of films, and there's people whose job that is to just find artists and meet them, learn what they're looking for, and build those relationships. That's the best way to do that.
From Paulina, where can I find sources and resources to add sound effects to my installations as a textile artist?
They have what's called Foley libraries. So FOLEY is the technical term of what that's called, and that's like the background. You know, you'd be surprised at how much work goes into creating sounds in a movie that happen after the film is even. You think that's just the birds and the that are actually in the scene, but it's no, there's somebody who goes in and adds every single sound effect in there sometimes and create this whole thing. So that's called Foley, and they do have certain libraries that you can purchase. If you're in New Bedford, I might even have one that I could just give you that has a lot of that stuff. But that would be the way to go. And that surprised me too when I stumbled onto that. And it's literally every single sound effect and thing that you could think of. You know, outdoors in a Chinese marketplace, or like indoors in a department store men's section, or, you know, there's people that design those sound atmospheres, or whatever you want to call it, and they put them in libraries. So I would look up some Foley libraries or sound effects libraries, and they're fairly inexpensive to purchase these days. You could probably just download them too. So go ahead, Hendrik. What's up?
Go ahead.
Good. So in situations when you start to pick up steam, right, and you know you're making some money, and now you know you need an accountant or you need a lawyer, what are your tips with finding a good accountant or a good lawyer, right? Like basic ones, and how to approach them so that they don't kind of look at you like, I mean, I have like this fear that they're going to get looked at like this rapper. You know what I mean? When I do so much more, right?
And
that they're going to look at me and
yeah.
Right, like I don't want to be marginalized because what I do is hip hop, or that's the basis of what I do. So I fear approaching somebody. Like I want to go to Diane Lowe and see if she'll be my accountant. I need one, but I don't know what I'm looking for. Number one, exactly in an accountant or a lawyer.
Yeah, no, I understand 100%. And I actually have already spoken to Diane about doing that stuff for people like us, and she is ready to go. So I could build with you offline for that as well. But yeah, I mean, I struggled with that for a long time as well. The difference for me was that I was in LA. So there's many more options and resources out there. So I didn't really have a problem. I just found whoever one of my guys was using. Oh, who do you use? Oh, this is a guy I've been using for a long time. Okay, cool. So that's kind of how that. Now I've been looking for that out here, and I've been having a problem as well. So what I concluded was find somebody who, go to UMass, go find a student who's studying this stuff and who would be grateful just to have the opportunity to just learn some stuff that is kind of fun. Maybe an accountant for a musician is going to be a lot more fun than what they're about to go do once they get that degree. So it might be a good opportunity for them to learn and grow with you as you grow and build that trust. And that would be one thing, and that's something that I'm kind of working on too. But the other thing is, yeah, no, that would be the main thing. I'm gonna leave it at that right there, and then we'll build outside of that. But I need one too. I'm still looking for one in New Bedford too. So
you juggle a couple of grants at the same time, and then you're like, okay, I got it all lined up. I got all my receipts and I got everything ready, but like you still kind of want to figure some things out, and you want a professional to look at it, right?
Very much important to do that because it will come back to bite you later on.
Yeah, of course.
And the lawyer and the and the accountant. Those are probably your two. Once business is involved, those are the two things that are really, really, really important, because in order for you to function properly and be great at what you do, you cannot have your mind on that stuff. You know what I mean? Somebody has to
constantly on it.
yeah. Have
Right.
to pay somebody to do it if you want it to be done right, which also to generate business. But that's what business is. So that's part of the game. But thank you for the question, bro, and we'll definitely build more on that for sure.
So this might be a little jumbly of a question, but I'm in a band and there's 4 of us. With finances and business, how might that be like challenging?
Between the 4, to kind of handle financing and business between the 4 of you?
Yeah, as of right now, we're kind of like we have everything we do is just in one thing. So over time, that might get a little complicated as we start doing more things. So any tips?
It will. So the very first thing that I would say about that is constant and honest communication amongst each other. Like, you guys have to be on the same page of, like, talk about it. Say, hey, if we were to get a gig that made 10 grand, how do we split that up? Like, have the conversation before you get to that point, because by then it's going to be too uncomfortable and it could create some weird things. Because you know, from my experience and what I've just seen, dynamics amongst band members aren't always clear to each other. You know, some people might think they're the lead, and then the other, you know, so having that dialogue, building that real bond between band members will at least help down the road. And then another thing I would say is have somebody outside of one of you 4 handling that stuff for you.
Yeah, we're like the best of friends. We don't really disagree on anything. We're pretty like even. So
that's a great stop.
We're blessed in that department. It was more like yeah, we probably should go with an accountant for something like that eventually.
Yeah, and I mean, as long as you have a LLC or some sort of business entity that you do business under, and that could be the band's name, you know, and then all the money just goes into that account, and you figure out how to split that up or whatever, you know. Hopefully you guys come up with like a set rate for the gig, and you just get paid, you pay the, you know, each band member through the business account, you know, or you know, that would be the best ways. Kind of have one place where that money pools, and you divvy it up from that business account. But if you don't already have a LLC or some sort of EIN number or DBA, then you should definitely get that you know, first.
Right on. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And also, you know, if you need kind of advice like that outside of that, I know you're in New Bedford too, so always reach out, and I would love to help however I can. So
thank you. Whereabouts in New Bedford are you located, if you don't mind my asking?
I am our business is right on the corner of Union and 6th Street.
Oh, right on. I know where that is. Thank you.
Question from Deanna. I have no experience on paper in the music industry, but I'm very musically inclined and want to learn everything there is to learn. I bought some music equipment to teach myself how to make beats. I don't have a specific position I want to master, so where should I start?
That is a good question. So, I mean, where you should start is maybe, I would say, just go sample a little bit of everything. If you don't have a set place that you want to start, the best thing to do is just go see what's out there, see what the options are. You can start by, if you're in New Bedford, coming by here, by the building here, we have different musicians at different levels that can, you know, you can learn, you maybe just dabble in recording or lighting. But I would say start by just getting out there. There's things like you can go be a stagehand at the Zyterian and just be around a show, see what's there, what the people actually do, and what the options are. And at the very least, just, you know, find what you love to do. That is really the main thing. You have to love it, because there's going to be moments that it's not going to treat you back the way you want to be treated. And if you don't love it, you're going to leave it. So find what you love. It might be producing. It might be just playing piano. It could be writing or whatever. Just explore as much as you can. And it'll find you. You'll feel what feels right.
So I want to thank you all for your time this afternoon. This was a great session. And I'd like to also thank Michael. Sorry, Michael, what was that?
We're done already?
Yes, this went by so fast, but it's because we were having fun.
I'd like to thank you guys, Marianella and Margot, for providing this platform and for inviting me to be on it, and for everything you guys do to, you know, to help us all create a good art scene in this city. And I appreciate it. And thank you so much for having me, and everybody else for joining too. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me talk. So appreciate it.